Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today we're doing a Dinomorphia deck profile. So I'm really excited to see you guys because this deck is a really insane deck. There revolves around getting your life points as low as possible because the lower your life points become, the stronger you are. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell in there so you can come part of our notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like in your name description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to our patron, along with test stands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Dinomorphia Therizia. This card is a great 3 of in the deck, and if this card is normal or special summon, you can set a Dinomorphia trap directly from your deck to your spell and trap card zone. Then, if your life points are 2,000 or less, this card gains 500 attack points, and if this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect, then you can manage a trap card from your graveyard to special summon out a level 4 or lower Dinomorphia monster from your graveyard, except another copy of this card, which is a great effect to be able to go in for another card to float in so you have monsters on the field. We then play 3 copies of Dinomorphia Diplos. Diplos is a really good 3 of as well in the deck, because if this card is normal or special summon, you can send a Dinomorphia card from your deck to the graveyard. Then, if your life points are 2,000 or less, you inflict 500 points damage to your opponent. And if this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can manage a trap from the graveyard to special summon out a level 4 or lower Dinomorphia monster from your graveyard, except another copy of this card. This card is a great 3 because they help you float back and forth in between the 2 of them, which is a really awesome thing to make sure that you have a monster on the field. We then play 3 copies of Lord of the Heavenly Prison. This card is a great 3 of the deck because it adds an extra layer of protection to your back row from cards like Harpy's Feather Duster in this deck, because it has the ability that during the main phase you can activate this effect that you reveal this card in your hand. And it also has the ability that stays revealed until the end of the opponent's turn. And when this card is revealed by this effect, set cards on the field cannot be destroyed by card effects, and if a set spell or trap card is activated except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand, and then if you activated this effect while this card was revealed, you can reveal a card in your deck that's a spell or trap and set it to your field, which is a really good effect to be able to put that card on your field, but you banish it during the end phase of the next turn. And I have some really awesome text to work with this card to be able to reveal this card, activate a spell or trap, and then special summon this and set a spell or trap from the deck to be able to get some really insanely powerful cards put on the field with this card to combo off. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is a really awesome card in the deck to make sure that the opponent's not touching the deck while we're going in for our insane plays in this build. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we actually don't play that many spells in the deck, and we're just going to be playing 3 copies of Fossil Dig. Fossil Dig is in the deck because you want to be able to use this card to search out your Therizia or your Diplos from the deck to be able to get additional plays. You don't play any of the pot cards in this particular deck, but you can if you want to play Pot of Prosperity by dropping 2 of this and then dropping another trap card that you might not want to play. But I like playing the 3 copies of Fossil Dig in the deck because it adds a little bit of consistency with the copies of Lord of the Heavenly Prison to get into some really good plays while also using Lord of the Heavenly Prison to be able to protect your back row. So that's it for the spell cards, guys. Let's get into the traps. Now we play a lot of traps in this deck. So we're going to be starting out with 3 copies of Dinomorphia Domain. This card is a really good fusion trap card that has the ability that during the main phase you pay half your life points to fusion summon a Dinomorphia monster from your extract using monsters from your hand, deck, or field as fusion material. That's really powerful that you can actually use the monsters in your deck for this card's effect. And then when your opponent activates a card or effect while your life points are 2,000 or less, you can banish this card from the graveyard and you take no effect damage from your opponent's card effects this turn. And you can only activate 1 of this card per turn. We then play 3 copies of Dinomorphia Frenzy. Frenzy is an insanely powerful trap card that during your opponent's main phase, you pay half your life points to fusion summon a Dinomorphia monster from your extract using only 1 monster from your deck and 1 monster from your extract as fusion material. That's absolutely insane that you can use monsters from your extra deck and one from your deck to be able to go in for a crazy powerful fusion monster like Rexterm. This card also has the ability that when your opponent activates a card or effect, when your life points are 2,000 or less, you can banish this card from your graveyard and you take no effect damage during this turn, which is a really good effect to be able to block your opponent from using something like a Sparks to be able to end the game. We then play 2 copies of Dinomorphia Sonic. Dinomorphia Sonic is a great counter trap in the deck that has the ability when an opponent activates a spell or trap card, while you control a Dinomorphia monster, pay half your life points and negate the activation. If you do, destroy that card, then destroy a Dinomorphia monster that you control, which is a pretty good effect to be able to pop one of your monsters, because then you can use the ability of your copy of Diplos or Therizia in the graveyard to be able to banish a trap and special summon back the other one back to your side of the field. So this card is a great card in the deck, and it also has the ability that during damage calculation, when your life points are 2,000 or less, if you would take battle damage, you can manage this card from the graveyard and you don't take battle damage this turn. So this card is a great 2-of because it also protects you from battles. We then play just a single copy of Brute. Brute is a card that I actually consider bumping up to 2 in this build. You pay half your life points and you destroy a Dinomorphia monster that you control and a card your opponent controls, which is a pretty good effect to be able to just pop 2 cards on the field, but I ended up just playing it as a 1-of in this deck. You can bump this card up to 2, but I really just felt like 1 was totally fine. We then play a single copy of Dinomorphia Alert. This card is a really neat card. You pay half your life points to special summon out 2 Dinomorphia monsters from your graveyard whose total level equal 8 or less. But you cannot declare an attack with them this turn. Also, you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except for Dinomorphia monsters. And it's just a really good card to be able to use late game, so you really only need a single copy of this card in the deck once you have your graveyard set up. For my tech card for the Lord of the Heavenly Prison, I'm actually teching in a single copy of Eradicator. Eradicator is just so good comboed with that card, especially when you're going up against like the Despia matchup. This card is just insane because you tribute a dark monster with 2,500 or more attack, and then you declare spells or traps, and your opponent has to reveal every card that's on their field that's set and all cards in their hand, and then you discard every card that's a spell card and destroy every card that's a spell card or a trap card, whichever one you declare, for 3 turns. This card can completely win you a game by just revealing Lord of the Heavenly Prison, special summoning it to your side of the field, setting this, and then flipping this and tributing Lord of the Heavenly Prison to be able to call spells or traps to be able to completely end the game. This card is really, really good in the deck, but you only need a single copy of it because you're only ever going to use it when you have Lord of the Heavenly Prison in your hand. We then play 2 copies of Ferret Flames. Ferret Flames is really, really cool. I love this card. It's really good late game, so I only play 2 copies of it, because if the combined attack of all face-up monsters that your opponent controls is higher than your life points, you make your opponent shuffle monsters they control into the deck, their choice, so that the monsters combined attack remaining monsters on the field become less than or equal to your life points. Now this deck can go down all the way to like 2 life points, which is just really insane because you have so many cards that you're paying half over and over and over again. So this card can be a complete board wipe against your opponent to be able to get rid of their entire field, which is just really insane of monsters by just flipping this card face up. The reason I don't play it at 3 is because I'm teching in the Eradicator, and I don't need 3 copies of this card because it's only good late game once you've activated a couple of your trap cards and paid half a couple of times. We then play 3 copies of Torrential Tribute just in case we need to board wipe the field outside of Ferret Flames. This card is really, really good because our Dinomorphia monsters float, which is really nice. We play 3 copies of Solemn Judgment because paying half is always live as long as you have 1 life point to pay. But this card is really good because when a monster would be summoned or a spell trap card is activated, pay half your life points and negate the summon or activation. So this card is a definite 3-of in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Solemn Strike. Solemn Strike has the ability that when a monster's would be special summoned or a monster effect is activated, you pay 1,500 life points to negate the summon or activation, and if you do, destroy this card, or destroy that card, which is a really good effect to be able to just pop a monster on the field or stop a monster's effect. We then play 3 copies of Gozen. Gozen is really good because we're only really going in for dark monsters anyways, so each player can only control 1 attribute of a monster on the field. We only summon dark. Lord of the Heavenly Prison is dark. All of our Dinomorphia monsters are dark, so that's totally fine to play this card as a 3-of to be able to shut down the opponent, where if they're playing multiple attributes in their deck, they can only play 1. This card is basically an instant win against Sword Soul, and it's really, really good against Punk. It's really good against your matchups when you're playing up against Despia, because they're going to summon light and dark. So this card is just absolutely insane overall against a bunch of different meta matchups. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Dinomorphia Rexterm. Rexterm is absolutely insane because this card is basically a walking skill drain that has the ability to take a Dinomorphia fusion monster plus a Dinomorphia monster to go into this card, but you're always going to summon this card off of Frenzy because it has the ability that your opponent cannot activate the effects of monsters they control that have attack greater than or equal to your life points, and you can only use each effect of this card once per turn. Then once per turn, quick effect, you can pay half your life points, and the attack of all monsters your opponent controls becomes equal to your life points, which is really cool because you can actually boost your opponent's monster's attack points up to match your life points so that their effects are negated until the end phase of this turn. And if this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect, then you can special summon out a level 6 or lower Dinomorphia monster from your graveyard, which is a pretty good effect to tag out and float into another monster. We then play 3 copies of Dinomorphia Kentragina. Kentragina is a good 3 of as well because it's a 4,000 attack point monster, and it just takes 2 different Dinomorphia monsters with different names, and it loses attack equal to your life points, and you can only use each of the following effects of this card once per turn. During the main phase, quick effect, you can pay half your life points and then banish a Dinomorphia normal trap from your graveyard, and this effect becomes that target trap's effect that was activated, which is pretty good to be able to just copy the effect of a trap card in the graveyard. And if this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect, then you can special summon out a level 4 or lower Dinomorphia monster from your graveyard, floating into another one. We then play 2 copies of Stealthburgia. Stealthburgia is just a good 2 of unless you're playing Prosperities, which you can play as a 3 of if you are going that route. So this card is a really good 2 of because it has the ability, it takes 2 Dinomorphias with different names, and then while your life points are 2,000 or less, you don't have to pay life points to activate trap cards, which is why Solemn Strike is such a good card in this deck, because it basically activates as a free card when you have Stealthburgia on the field. It also has the ability that you don't have to pay for your Dinomorphia monster effects either, which is a really good effect. And you can only use each of the following effects of this card once per turn, that when an opponent's monster activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack. And if this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect, then you can special summon out a level 4 lower Dinomorphia monster from your graveyard. This card is great if you know you have a bunch of cards set that you're going to be activating paying half over and over and over again, but you really only need 2 copies of it because you can usually just summon Rexterm and just win. We then play a single copy of Psychic End Punisher. Since we're going to have a big difference between our life points and our opponent's life points, you can actually summon this card super easy and synchro summon with an Ash Blossom plus one of your level 6 Dinomorphia or level 8 Dinomorphia monsters into this card, which is really cool because while your life points are less than or equal to your opponent, this card, synchro summon card, is unaffected by our opponent's activated effects, and then once per turn you can pay 1,000 life points and then target a monster your opponent controls and one card that you control and banish both of them, or one monster that you control and a card your opponent controls and banish them, which is pretty good. And at the start of the battle phase, you can make this card gain attack equal to the difference between your life points and your opponent's life points. This card is just a 1 of in here because you can summon it, but it's a little bit difficult since you're having to normal summon a hand trap to make it, and you're giving up something like a copy of Rexterm to make this card. So this card is really good as a 1 of if you know you can end the game. We then play a single copy of Logia because it's just a great card to summon in this deck. Same thing with Dolka. Dolka is just really good to be able to make in the deck. I usually make the copy of Logia a little bit more than Dolka, but it just kind of depends on what the field and the matchup is. We then play a single copy of Tornado Dragon because it can pop spells or traps. 1 copy of Baguska just in case I need to slow down the game just a little bit since we are playing a back row heavy deck. 1 copy of Abyss Dweller. Abyss Dweller shuts down graveyards, so this card is a good 1 of. And then finally, AA Zeus, because AA Zeus is just really good with any deck that can play Xyz to be able to board wipe the field. But you do have to watch out a little bit because if you have a card set on your side of the field, it will get rid of those as well. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really awesome deck. If you guys have never played Dinomorphia, I highly recommend it. It's super fun to be able to play. It's really amazing to get to those really low life points just to see how low can you go with this deck to be able to win a game, which is just absolutely insane. And you have so many tech trap cards that you can play in this deck. It's absolutely nuts. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.